I'm going to call this meeting to order at 3 o'clock and turn it over to Marcia Mack for the pledge.
I've asked Bill Mott if he would lead the Pledge of Allegiance today. And Bill served in the Washington Army National Guard from 1969 to 75 as a sergeant. Bill was a signal chief for an infantry battalion. Bill and his wife Sue have been married for 58 years and have lived in the village since 1975. Bill can be found most days in the billiards rooms and also serves on the Building and Grounds Committee. So Bill, the pleasure is yours.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, a little housekeeping. Please silence your cell phones if they're on. I will advise you that this meeting is being videotaped without the consent of the board. The recording is being made by a resident or residents acting on their own over which the board has no control. The SBCA does not have anything to do with the recording, is not responsible for the content, quality, or editing of the recording, or the dissemination of the recording, and does not bear any liability for any damages or issues that may arise from the recordings being uploaded to YouTube or any other social media that is not safeguarded from view by anyone worldwide with internet access. If you want a copy of the recording or have any issue with the recording, please see Sandy. Is that you under the hat? Okay. Sandy Sadeh. Please call the roll.
Anderson,
Here.
Dodge,
Here.
Duffy, here, French,
Here.
Judkins,
Here.
Mack,
Here.
MacArthur.
Here. Are there any agenda deletions? Nope. Okay, I am going to introduce you to our attorney, Mark Stahl, from the law firm of CHDB, which, in my opinion anyway, is the premier HOA lawyers in the state of Arizona. They put together this wonderful book every year or 2 years that will give you everything you need to know about statutory requirements for HOAs in Arizona. Even though Mark looks like he just graduated from law school last week, he has actually been practicing law for nearly 20 years and is the managing partner of our law firm CHDB. He has been invited here today to talk to us about the new case law that we referenced last month. That is an appellate court case here in Arizona that will significantly alter some of the ways we do business. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and after he's through, we'll have a brief Q&A. And I'm going to ask you to please keep it brief. Mark has a very good heart, but he is not here out of the goodness of his heart. So with respect to his time and your dollars, if you have any questions, please limit them to the issues of his case, and I will ask him to limit his responses to those issues as well.
Well, hey, thank you for having me. Can everyone hear me okay? Again, I'm Mark Stahl with CHDB Law. Our law firm does work for thousands of HOAs across the state of Arizona. That's really what our firm focuses on. So I'm here today, like Karen said, because there's a new case that came out of the Arizona Court of Appeals about 5 or 6 weeks ago, which completely changes how most of our clients will do business going forward. And rather than you kind of learning as you go and figuring it out as you go when you come to these open session meetings, I figured it'd be helpful if I kind of walk through some of what the case says and some of what is going to change going forward in your open session meetings. So this case involves another community in Southeast Mesa called Sunland Springs Village. So if you all were getting blamed for this case, say it's not me. It was somebody else. There's a Springs in that, okay? Why did we even get to that point? What homeowner didn't like how the Sunland Springs Village Board was operating, especially in executive session? And one of the things that they didn't like is that decisions were being made in executive session. So brought the case up to the Arizona Court of Appeals. The statute has not changed yet. It's ARS 33-1804. The Court of Appeals simply interpreted that statute. And for 20, 30 years, as long as I can remember, the statute's always been interpreted that decisions could be made in executive session. This Court of Appeals disagreed and said no more decision making, no more action in executive session. I will say the good news, your board doesn't make a lot of decisions historically, I don't think, in executive session. Some of my clients make a lot of decisions in executive session, so they'll have to change a lot. This board does not need to change that much when it comes to executive session. So again, no decision making in executive session. So that's going to all have to be done in an open session. So what is that going to look like? You'll see on your agenda today, it says something like executive session decisions. You'll see that on probably on every open agenda going forward. That doesn't mean there'll be any decisions. So say at the last executive session, nothing came out of that to vote on, there won't be anything to vote on today. But in the future, you might see something that says homeowner collections. And they may have to foreclose on someone who hasn't paid their bills in a few years and direct our firm to file a foreclosure lawsuit. Normally, you wouldn't see that in an open session, so it'll be a little different. Might be awkward at first, but this board is not going to say we're foreclosing on lot 42 owned by Mark and Kayla Saul. They'll say something like we're foreclosing on account number 54321, and is there a motion, a second, and then you'll have a chance to comment. It's going to be strange because you won't know much about it, and you'll have questions. Well, who is it? How much do they owe? Why are we foreclosing? The board's probably not going to address those questions because that does contain the personal, health, or financial information of an owner. Or say we need legal advice and they're voting on something about a lawsuit or an appeal or something like that. The board's not going to probably answer your questions or engage in dialogue, but you are allowed to comment before they actually vote on that particular item. So any questions about executive session voting, because there isn't anymore, and how that's going to work in open session? I think we'll probably get over the next few months when there's some things on the agenda you'll get used to that. So that's the first thing that came out of that. That's the most important. Second, we'll see the executive session agendas that are being published contain more information now than they used to. That's because the Arizona Court of Appeals said there needs to be more information on the executive session agendas so you all know what the board is talking about behind closed doors. And the final thing that came out of this was this idea that some of the authority to set your executive session agendas for the board can be delegated to somebody. So our firm's drafting probably hundreds of these resolutions, and Summerlin Village is one of these resolutions, where if it's passed by the board today, which is probably the next half hour, 45 minutes, you're going to be addressing that, it will give that authority to set the executive session agenda and the open session agenda to the board president, and I believe general manager and secretary. And also, you're going to be hearing from the rest of the board as well. It's not just the end-all be-all. The board can have a chance to chime in and say we'd like to see this, and ultimately the president, secretary, and general manager will be setting that executive session agenda. So those are the main things that came out of the case. Again, future board meetings might look a little bit different. Today's not going to look that different because there's nothing that I don't believe that came out of executive session. But in the future, you might see some foreclosures, some appeals, some fine waivers, things of that nature. All right. Any questions for me about the case or how the board meetings are going to work or how executive session works anymore?
Just one real quick question.
Sure.
Is the board still limited on what they can discuss in executive session, or does that change?
Great question. So no, they're not limited any more than they used to be. There's 5 different types of things that the board can discuss in executive session: pending or contemplated litigation, legal advice from our firm. They can talk about personal health and financial information of any owners. They can talk about employee issues and also appeals. Unless a homeowner says, no, I wanted to get appeal in open session, they can do that in executive session. But now it's discussion only, but the same topics. Good question. Any other questions? All right. Easy crowd today. Any questions or anything else I can do to help the board today?
So this is really going to be very brief. This is it? No more questions?
I'm glad someone asked one, you know.
Let's move on.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
So, after all these years, they decided that the Court of Appeals decided to interpret this statute differently. Anything that changed in your mind? I mean, because it's kind of weird that it went for this long until somebody challenged it, right?
It is.
Especially HOA law in Arizona, which is, always a contentious issue.
I've noticed, yeah, about 20 years of litigating these issues. So yeah, so the question is, why now? Why did the Court of Appeals interpret it this way, and why did it take this long to get up to that point? Most cases are not challenged all the way there as a court of appeals. They usually stop at Superior Court, or they don't even get to Superior Court because they're often settled. So this is something that has never been an answered question, but strangely enough, about 3 or 4 months ago, I had a board member on one of my boards specifically say, we can't vote in executive session. I said, that's not what we think the law says, and in fact, the Arizona legislature right now is pushing forward a bill. It's not signed yet, but if it is signed eventually by the governor, it would say in a statute that the board can't take action in executive session. So if you had asked me 2 months ago, I would say, this is how I know I think that I'm right when it comes to the interpretation, because the legislature is proposing a bill that would change it, right? So the Court of Appeals ultimately it's the first time this was in front of them, to my knowledge, and they said the word consider means basically you can only discuss and not take action. So it was really the first time it's been in front of them, and I think there was an appellate court attorney on the other side is what I heard. He's an appellate attorney. So this is really what he wanted to do, was to get this far and maybe go to this Arizona Supreme Court next. So that's the best I know. We didn't handle the case, it wasn't our client, but kind of a different result.
Thank you.
Yeah, your questions. Any other questions for me? Now I'll let you get back to more important board business, but thank you for having me.
Thanks,
Board members,
Mark.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks to Mark for clearing all these things up for us, and we will go on. Secretary's report.
The board meeting minutes of May 12, 2026 are in your director's packets. These minutes are submitted for your approval.
Are there any corrections to the board meeting minutes of May 12, 2026? Hearing none, these minutes stand approved as presented and will be posted on the SBCA official bulletin board, the website, and will be submitted for publication in the Summer Journal. Treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report as of May 31st, 2026, and a copy of this is also in your board packet. May 31st, 2026, the cash balances in the general account were $1,677,022.13. And April 30th, 2026, those cash balances in the account were $1,943,703.04. So it's a decrease of $266,680.91. And kind of look down below, it'll show some of the association dues. The association dues account went into a negative because we actually did a transfer out of it, which is shown right below under the uses of cash, $150,000, which we approved at the last board meeting. And then other sources of cash, miscellaneous was a total of $187,629.79. So basically, the account for source of cash ended up at $44,899.79, but uses of cash came out different. So basically, that decrease of $266,795.19, we actually have a variance right now in the reporting of $114.28, but Ollie and Julie worked with me on it. They've already identified it. It'll be corrected in the June report. So it's all been balanced out. As far as the restricted replacement reserve fund, on May 31st, we had $2,627,065.51. On May 30th, we had $2,450,000, 13.13. So we had an increase of $177,052.38. You'll see sources of cash where that came from. $26,000 from home sales, interest income of $1,392.82, and then the transfer in of $150,000 that came out of the general account. So we had, let's say, $177,392.82 come into that account, but the use of cash actually was a negative $330.44. So increase in the total account, $177,052.38. If you look at the restricted capital asset fund accounts, May 31st, it totaled $32,594. As of May 30th, it had been $32,589.98. So, like it has been the last couple of months, it was interest income of $4.02.
Okay, manager's report.
The operating account is running positive from year to date through the month of May, $50,000. Events are a little bit behind budget. Bingo is a little bit ahead of budget. So all in all, we're running a positive budget for the entire year, going through May. Home sales in the month of May was 13. So we're about 19 below the 20-year average. Year-to-date sales through May are the lowest since 2010.
Okay, Architectural Control Committee.
The committee is on the summer schedule. We're meeting every other Thursday. The committee held on May 14th and 28th. The committee reviewed 24 requests, 3 pavers, pergolas, shingles, roofs, and windows, 2 each block walls, fascia, soffits, gutters, 1 each driveway, gate, porch, columns, golf net, trellis, and solar.
Continue with community standards.
There was 21 violations, notices were sent, 10 for weeds, 2 for pets off leash, and 9 for visible trash bin.
Tom, Buildings and Grounds.
Buildings and Grounds Committee meetings are generally held the first Wednesday of every month at 3:00 p.m. in the auditorium. At the meeting on June 3rd, 2026, the committee discussed the following: renovation of rooms 3 and 4, replacement of 10 card tables in rooms 3 and 4, replacement of flooring in rooms 3 and 4, a bid from Castle Floors for installation of luxury vinyl planking. Flooring has been forwarded to the SPCA board for action. We also discussed parking lot lighting at the main campus, which was tabled until additional bids can be received and reviewed. And we discussed replacement of windows in rooms buildings A and B. Selections of a bid to be based on the recommendation from the SPCA maintenance supervisor Brian Pratt, with input from SRP in regards to any recommendations for certain types of windows, or if there's a rebate available through their rebate program. This was forwarded to the SPCA board for action, and the next Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting is scheduled for July 8th, 2026 at 3:00 p.m. in the auditorium.
Budget and Finance.
The SBCA Budget and Finance Committee met May 20th in the auditorium here, about 30 residents present. The meeting started with introductions and background expectations of each committee member. The committee then discussed the charge of the Budget and Finance Committee as outlined in the SBCA book policies. The committee discussed the year-to-date revenue versus the year-to-date budget. Concern was expressed, the revenues declined due to home sales declining over the past years. That's a discussion on the purpose and funding / use of the general account, restricted replacement reserve fund, and also the restricted capital asset fund. Committee then held a discussion of an SBCA community improvement fund as described in the SBCA handbook under Article 5, Section 8, subsection J. Handbook clearly states that a fund of this nature was to be established years ago. Committee will continue to discuss this fund and bring it to the board at a future meeting. Open discussion was held with the residents in attendance regarding various aspects of the financial reports for SBCA. I volunteered to hold some open work sessions for residents to better understand some of these financial terms.
Thank you. Courtesy Patrol, the patrol issued 3 open garage door notices. That's really low. That's a good thing. Okay, Communications Committee.
Communications Committee meetings are generally held the 4th Friday of the month at 10 a.m. in the HOA office conference room. The committee did not meet this past month. We will meet again in July. Or excuse me, in June.
Judicial Committee. The Judicial Committee generally meets on the 3rd Thursday of the month at 2 p.m. in the HOA office conference room. The committee met on Thursday, May 21st at 2 p.m. for the sole purpose of reviewing, discussing, and formulating questions regarding the new case law AZ&H Revocable Trust versus Sun Springs Village HOA. The committee will meet on June 18th at 2 p.m. in the office conference room. All residents are encouraged and welcome to attend and participate. Security Committee. The Security Committee generally meets on the first Tuesday of the month at 10:30 a.m. in the HOA office conference room. The committee met on Tuesday, June 2nd at 10:30 a.m. We discussed security incident reports and Mesa Police Department reports within the community as well as in close proximity to Sunland Village, ideas for additional security tips to go in the weekly e-blast, as well as possible journal articles regarding home safety. There was a discussion about a recurring problem of dogs running off leash within the community and attacking people and other animals, and the need to report these attacks to the police and animal control. The security committee will not meet in July. The next meeting will be held on August 4th at 10:30 in the office conference room. All residents are encouraged and welcome to attend and participate. Special Events Committee. Tom?
The Special Events Committee generally meets the fourth Tuesday of the month at 3:30 p.m. in the HOA conference room. The committee did not meet in May or June, I believe. The next meeting will be in October 27th, 2026.
So is it safe to say we can take this committee meeting off the agenda in the next couple of months?
Yep.
Okay. Ad hoc video live streaming committee.
The committee did not meet, however, we do have some information. The audio contractor that we use here at Sunland Village suggested a simpler and less costly option for us to use. And I just talked to Brian today. The thing that he suggested will only cost $100 to hook up the things that need to be hooked up so that we don't get a lot of feedback from the Zoom sessions. So we're going to ask that he go ahead and buy that and right away. And then we'll have a little test Zoom session. And the next board meeting in July, we'll hook it up for a formal Zoom test. And hopefully we get some people that live in the community and maybe have gone home to North Dakota, like some people. And we can get some thorough testing of that $100 fix, which would be a lot cheaper than some of the other things that we had thought about.
And this was proposed by our sound guy?
Yes. Cool.
Okay. Okay, new business. Closed session decisions, there are none. Resolution to delegate agenda authority. Please find the attached resolution drafted by the attorney at CHDB Law Firm. It will delegate authority to set board meeting agendas to the president, secretary, and general manager with input from the entire board. May I have a motion?
I move that the board adopt the resolution as presented.
I'll second that.
Any board discussion?
I have.
Yes, Karen?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry. Okay, Karen, I looked and the rest of the board members, as we got this on Friday, and as I was reviewing it and reading it, I guess one of the things that kind of keeps coming back and bothering me is that, this whole lawsuit with Sunland Springs, what brought that about on their closed door sessions, their executive sessions and the closed door meetings. They were doing things that they weren't disclosing it properly on their agenda. They were voting on items, taking votes that they should have in closed door sessions. But it all kind of circulated around their closed door sessions. And as I read this resolution, all of a sudden, not only are we looking at our closed door sessions, which we should, and I totally agree with that, but the open door sessions is what I kind of have a problem with as I go through and read this. 2/3 of this is okay, but the last whereas on that they're proposing, what they're asking us as board members to do is totally relinquish our ability to put something on the agenda. It's also limiting people in our village from coming forth and say, hey, I would like this on the agenda, as our bylaws now allow. And what it's doing but the authority to make a determination as to what items are placed on the agenda. Now, I understand it calls for board input, but input is just input. I mean, I can make decorating suggestions to my wife on our house, and she'll look at me and say, okay, thanks for doing that, but that ain't going anywhere. And the same way here is it specifically says that 3 people are gonna determine, actually 2 people, because you just need a majority. 2 people will determine what goes on our open agenda. I don't have a problem with the closed agenda, but the open agenda, which means if 2 people decide they don't like something, or they don't want to talk about something, or they don't want to vote on something, it means that they can make that decision and it won't appear on our agenda, which means no action can be taken. And I just think personally that is a huge overstep of power. And I think we really need to think about this a little bit. I think we need to rein this in a little bit and say, let's talk about our closed door sessions and our executive sessions, and let's set up parameters for that so that we are in compliance. I have no problem with that at all. But I think we're overstepping our bounds on how this is currently written. And I really think that we need to kind of take a step back and let's think about this a little bit. Let's maybe see if we can modify it. Mark said we can modify the thing however we want, and they'll rewrite it. But I think we need to do that, and let's exclude our open session. They weren't part of the lawsuit. It wasn't why Summer Springs got in trouble because of their open sessions, because they're closed sessions. And I think that's kind of where we need to really focus our efforts on.
Is there any other board discussion?
I agree with, I think some of the wording in here isn't quite what we discussed in our meeting with Mark. So I do think the last 2 paragraphs of page 1 are potentially what we would reword. I would suggest that we table it for this month's session and get back with some suggestions on the potential wording, and then potentially put it on the July agenda.
Any other board discussion?
Is, Richard, is that a motion? Or adjust,
It's a suggestion. We're either gonna vote on this and vote it probably potentially down or not, or we table it for this month.
Is there any member comment?
Susan Miners, 4733 East Edgewood Avenue. I guess in listening to Mark's discussion, as a former reading specialist and teacher, I'm not sure that you understand the meaning of the word input. To me, when I hear that that the president, the secretary, and the general manager are compiling the actual agenda, but there's input from the rest of the board. If Marcia or Richard or Jerry or Cheryl or whoever said, hey, I want to discuss thus and such, and they went to either Darwin or Tom or Karen and told them that they would like to have that on the agenda, or if myself or somebody else as a resident said, you know, we haven't talked about thus and such for a long time, could we maybe put that on the board agenda? I guess that's the way I interpret input, that the input wouldn't just be dismissed unless there was, you know, a legal reason for not discussing it, but it would add to the upcoming agenda.
Any other member comment?
Dennis
Miles, 5042 East Edgewood Avenue. It sounds to me, from what I heard from our attorney, that the appellate court decision is not black letter law. And whatever they're saying is, if these three people have the ability to put things on the agenda, then you should do that. I don't think, trying to skirt around this or saying, I'm gonna change this because I don't like it, it's not gonna make a difference. It's the law, and you gotta abide by it. So that would be my input.
Any other member comment? Okay. Call the roll.
Anderson,
No?
Josh,
No.
Pepe, yes. Rich,
No.
Judkins, with Jerry left. Mac,
I want to give an explanation before I say my vote in response to your statement there. It does say in 1804, an association's board may delegate the identification authority. It doesn't say it gives it to the president or the secretary or the general manager. So it's a board decision. So I'm not quite at this point ready to give up any authority as what we have on this board, so I vote no.
Arthur,
Yeah.
we have 2 yes, and 1, 2, 3, 4 no's, and Jerry's gone. So motion fails.
So, Richard, did you want to, well, we don't need to table a motion, it's already been voted on and failed, okay. Transfer of additional funds from the general operating fund.
Hang on just 1 second. Can we schedule maybe a work session or something to talk about this, and so we can get it back to the attorney who has it refined?
I don't think we need to do it right this minute. For one thing, I don't have my calendar, and I do work for a living, so I'm not available every single day. Could we schedule something for a later time? I mean, could we schedule it later?
Sure.
Okay, transfer of additional funds from the general operating fund to the restricted replacement reserve fund, RRRF, 2025 tax year. Please find the attached advice from the SBCA auditor tax preparer regarding the, I'm sorry, what?
Wonder if we lost Mark.
Regarding the 2025 tax obligation. SBCA will have approximately $35,000 in projected taxable income. Without an additional reserve transfer, this amount will be subject to a 21% federal tax and a 4.9% Arizona state tax, in totaling $9,035. While the association has previously used loss carry forwards to offset operating surpluses, those have now been fully utilized. To eliminate this taxable income for 2025, an additional transfer to the reserve fund must be completed by September 15, 2026. May I have a motion?
I got my phone. Thought I had that to go on my trip.
Yeah, Mark, we lost it from the phone system.
May I have a motion?
I move that the board approve a transfer of $35,000 from the general operating fund to the restricted replacement reserve fund, the RRRF, for the 2025 restricted reserve contribution.
Second? I'll second. Board discussion.
So I have a question about this and the audit in general. We just got this a couple days ago, the audit and this request. And boy, I'm in favor of putting this money in a place where we don't have to share it with the federal government right now. So, but my question is, Richard, have you had a chance to look over the audit? And Should this transfer not have been discussed in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting?
The answer is no. I obviously saw it in the packet, but I haven't discussed it with Darwin or anybody at this point, so I was not aware of this. And it's good information going back from looking at the email string. It sounds like it's been going on for 2 or 3 months. I would kind of, I believe that this is kind of or the secretary and the treasurer, but I haven't had any conversation with anybody about it. It's kind of disturbing to me.
Any other comments?
I have a question. I propose a motion, but I guess this would be for Darwin. Since the additional funds, we have $35,000 left over. Could it have been put into the asset fund account rather than the RRF?
Not really, no.
Why not?
That fund is established for the reserve account, kind of like, really not going to accomplish much. For one thing, at $35,000 is not going to build a building, for one thing. And the second thing is that's what the recommendation for the auditor was on that. Everything is spelled out in the email. Everything that I know is spelled out in the email.
And what, Darwin, is it correct, once you put it in the RCAF, you can't get it out of there?
Yeah, you have to have a homeowner vote in order to get it out, in order
So
to
it's-
spend it.
So being that we have the shortage going into the restricted fund, we're better off putting it in that fund then?
Yes, correct.
And I have another question. So, because this is my first year on the board, is it not, does the Budget and Finance Committee and the treasurer not meet with you regarding stuff like this? Or is it just the auditor gives it to you and you tell us and we just rubber stamp it? Is that just the way it has always been done in the past?
Yeah, this is a one-time deal. This is something that's never happened before. There's always been a loss carry forward, as explained in the email. So this is something that's a one-time deal. This is simple advice from the CPA on how to handle this excess funds.
Any other comment? I have another comment. I just want to make it very clear to everybody, since there seems to be so much confusion here, that this entire packet of information has been available to every board member since last Thursday or Friday. Nobody has said a word to me or to my knowledge, to Tom or Jerry or Darwin or anybody about any of these questions that have come up on either the resolution, which was discussed last Wednesday with our attorney, or the transfer to the reserves, or the financial audit, or the window placement, or anything else. So even though Richard says I have not seen it, it was available to him last week.
Well, that's absolutely correct. But just reading through this is basically the full amount of information that was available to me. No discussion, no anything not brought to, like say, do we meet with the Budget and Finance Committee to discuss what's coming? I have an issue with that, and yeah, you're right. The agenda is filled with all of us. I didn't hear from anybody else about any of these items either, so it goes 2 ways, Karen.
No, I'm not talking about just the agenda. All these documents were available to you.
Absolutely.
If you have questions,
Yep.
you could have at any time called me or Darwin or anybody else on board and said, hey, can we meet and talk about this?
That's the whole point of us trying to do some work sessions over stuff like this, I believe.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any member discussion? No, everybody's good? Okay, Tom, call roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Josh. I think we lost it. Duffy, yes. French,
Yes.
Judkins, he's gone. Mack,
Yes.
MacArthur?
Yes.
We have 5 yeses and motion passes.
Okay. Approval of the financial audit for fiscal year 2025. The SBCA governing documents require that the financial records be audited on an annual basis. The CPA firm of Mansberger, Patterson, and McMullen PLC has completed this required audit for fiscal year 2025. May I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the Mansberger, Patterson, and McMullen PLC audit of the SPCA financial records for 2025 as submitted.
Second? I'll second. Board discussion. No board discussion? Member comment? No? Okay, call vote.
Anderson?
Yes.
Duffy? Yes. French?
Yes.
Judkins? Mack?
Yes.
MacArthur?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Windows for buildings A and B. The windows for buildings A and B are scheduled for replacement in 2026 according to the reserve study. These windows are over 50 years old. They're almost old enough to live here. And require a replacement. Is there any board discussion? I guess I'll call for a motion, huh? I wondered about that.
Kind of reversed there.
Is there a motion?
I move that the board accept the bid from Home Depot in the amount not to exceed $14,000 to be paid from the restricted replacement reserve fund.
I'll second it. Is there any?
I have a quick, where does the 14,000 come from? I see 8,836.91.
Memory, came from my memory which failed. So, actually, since we had the Buildings and Grounds Committee, we got a different quote from Home Depot.
Right.
And so it's down in, what did you say, 8,000?
Yeah,
So
8,836.91.
let's change the, just to make sure we have enough money, we've got a pretty solid quote. Let's, can we change that to $10,000 on the motion?
Not to exceed?
Not to exceed
Okay.
$10,000.
So,
And I'll try to remember next time.
so another $1,200 on top of their quote?
Yes, just to have some, just in case. Contingency fund.
So you're amending the motion?
Yes.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any other board discussion?
I just wanted, we have the 3 bids there, and with Home Depot, by far, this is the better bill. I did some research on, is it, Milgard. It seems like it's a good window, and I think we'll get a lot of, hopefully another 50 years.
Any other board discussion? Any member comment? Okay, Tom, call roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Duffy? Yes. French?
Yes.
Mack?
Yes.
MacArthur?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Flooring for rooms 3 and 4 in Building B. The Buildings and Grounds Committee has recommended the replacement of the flooring in rooms 3 and 4 with luxury vinyl plank flooring in conjunction with the current renovation project. Is there a motion? No motion?
I'm gonna make a motion, I have to fill in the blank. I move that the board accept the bid from Castle Floors in the amount not to exceed $14,000 to be paid from the restricted replacement reserve fund And that is a little, that's padding their estimate a little bit. Their estimate is $12,244.82. So this is just in case of,
What was the amount?
Um,
Your padding it
well, it says 14,000.
there. Okay.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? No? I just want to say something about the not to exceed. We generally put in a clause, we have the bid, we put in a not to exceed, and we add some money to it, because if they tear out the carpeting and find something that nobody foresaw, it allows us to take care of it and still keep the project on target. If we go with just the bids and say this much, and then something happens, we have to stop everything and come back at the next board meeting and vote for the additional money, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and it slows things down. So that's why we do that.
And plus, that bid's 2 months old. It's expired, technically, it's expired.
Okay. Is there any other board discussion?
Just one quick, I asked Darwin about something that was spent at one time, and he said, well, the general manager has some discretionary authority to spend up to a certain amount of money. That could be included in a case like this, right?
Not really. It
Yes,
should be,
money.
what the approved amount is for the board meeting is what should be the cap on that amount. That's how the voter on the board meeting does nothing at all to do with what spending authority of that issue.
Okay.
Any other board discussion? Any member comment?
Yeah.
My name is Paul Miners, 4733 East Edgewood. Just pulling from my reference for everybody's, information. In the past, I've been a commercial and residential estimator for several huge flourish distributions. And being familiar with the product, the reason we put those carpet squares in there is for easy repair, because you pull up which one if one is damaged. As far as the smell, we can handle it. We do have every year, correct me if I'm wrong, Darwin, that we have a professionally cleaned. It can be sanitized and deodorized so that there's no smell. It could be actually done twice a year. In my opinion, that carpet has at least 3 years, maybe 4 more life expectancy according to our survey study. I think it's kind of foolish to throw $13,000 down the toilet just for trying to be better homes and garden. That's just my opinion.
Any other member comment?
Susan Miners, 4733 East Edgewood Avenue. In looking at Darwin's report on the restricted reserve replacement fund year to date, it is $30,000 under budget, which that's mainly due to the number of homes being sold or not being sold, and that's 20%. And it just seems a little foolish to be, if we're already under budget, to be spending $14,000 more when there is, the possibility. Darwin said that every August the carpeting there is sanitized and professionally cleaned. And he indicated before the board meeting, I was chatting with him, that it could be professionally cleaned and sanitized twice a year. And I think for the people that we're speaking to, allergies and different things related to carpet, but it just seems like when we're already under budget, in that replacement fund. And it seems a little foolish to just sink the boat a little further.
Any other member comments?
Support Brown, 5108 Forge Avenue. At our Buildings and Grounds Committee, there were a lot of people discussing that, the carpet versus the other flooring. And there was a comparison to with the Piper Arts building. And everybody was discussing the allergies and everything else. And in the long term, I think it would be better to do what you're approving on that kind of flooring instead of the carpet. Thank you.
Any other member comment? Tom, call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Duffy, yes. French,
Yes.
Mack,
Yes.
MacArthur.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
This concludes the new business portion of this board meeting. I now open the meeting to comments from the floor. All those speaking must be a member of the Sunland Village Community Association. Please begin by stating your name and address, then slowly spell your last name. Comments are limited to appropriate SBCA topics. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Madam Chairman,
Could
members
you
of the
say
committee.
state your name and spell it, please?
Yes, my name is Gary Emanuel. I live at 4719 East Atlanta, here in Sunland Village. I've been resident for 3 years. My concern is with a series of multiple dog attacks. I was subject to this just May 24th, when 2 brown dogs came out of nowhere, running loose, and attacked my dog and had her pinned to the ground while I'm spilled onto the ground as part of this attack. This was a shock to me, and it was also very concerning that I'd not heard anything about this type of an attack beforehand. Now, multiple people have talked to me about these same 2 individuals, or the 2 dogs, and the person who owns them not securing the dogs and being unable to control them when she arrived on the scene. My recommendation to you, if it passes legal muster here, is that you need to make the information that you collect from your intake form on incident reports available to your newspaper so that we would know the types of injuries that have been sustained here on the campus. And specifically, further, for police reports on this, which I have filed on this occasion, I think that a total listing in the last, I don't know, year, 6 months, something along that line, of these type of incidents should be available to the police department and to anyone making these type of complaints. This would go a long way towards restoring some sense of safety and security here on the grounds of Sunland Village. That's my comment, and I hope that you can find something that you can do to replace it. I would like to add to it, I appreciated Karen MacArthur contacting me on this immediately and mentioning to me the issue that she has, that she's unable to release this information. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
You said you filed a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you gotten a copy of that report?
I have not, at this time, I've received 2 calls from the caseworker, Shauna, who suggested that they are still gathering information and will assign it, but had not assigned it to a police officer at this time.
Okay, if you get a copy of the police report, would you please make sure I get a copy of it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Any other member comments? No? We are adjourned at